one, you might have seen there's a big story that's developing this morning. Simon Goodwin's tenure at Melbourne is over. What's, I guess, your initial reaction to that, and I guess the legacy that he leaves at that club?
Oh well, he's I suppose my initial thoughts are that he's been an outstanding coach, still is an outstanding coach, and he's brought incredible success to Melbourne. After probably my time in footy, it's been difficult times, for Melbourne, and when Simon Goodwin arrived, good things started happening. So he's a high quality person, outstanding coach, and they're always difficult, but I suspect there are more great things on the horizon for him.
How does the coaching fraternity usually react to occasions like this, and do you have a relationship with Simon who you were working before?
I mean, we all know each other. He's I've known him for a long time, and we've had the great, I was going to say fortune of playing against him, but I think it was misfortune of playing against him. He's a great player for Adelaide, and always looked like a coach in waiting to me. Real student of the game, and it's always very difficult in these circumstances, but I certainly can't comment on the decisions that other clubs make, but it's it's just in the short term probably makes it a little bit it's just sobering. There are a lot of things I want to say, but I mean the bottom line is it's Melbourne's decision to make, and my just thoughts go out to Simon, and as I said, his future is a bright one.
When you say sobering, it's just the ruthless nature, I guess, of the industry that is sobering in that sense?
Yeah, but I mean, no one is immune to that, and no one's naive to the fact. But I think that you're looking for people to make commitments, and Simon made a long-standing commitment to Melbourne, and he delivered on that commitment over a long period of time. So he's clearly done an outstanding job, and he'll leave an incredible legacy at Melbourne.
Just to hear, speculation building just around Nate Caddy and where he might be at with the groin issues. Has the club put the line through him for the season? No,
we haven't. He's had a lingering issue that we will always put his best interests at heart, and really for Nate, that's clearly his long-term interests. But I've said repeatedly that we're not. We're certainly not giving up on this season. We've got a lot to get out of the balance of these games, and we'd ideally, we had Nate in, then we had him out, then back in. But the reality is he's a week-to-week proposition in terms of his how he recovers from training and games. And we've got to make decisions based on how's he feeling, but also his continuity of training. He wasn't able to train last week, and we didn't feel it was the right thing to play him. So we'll look after his long-term future, but we're not prepared at this stage to say that he's played his last game for the year.
Is it more probable that he won't play than not, or where does it sit, I guess, in terms of?
Yeah, it's a really hard one to give a definitive answer on that. I mean, but look, he could play, but he's not at his best, and the decision we've got to make is he able to perform, and are there any sort of medium to longer term ramifications of pushing him out there when he's sore? So we'll just keep assessing that on a week-to-week basis, but we'll look after his long-term future, but in an ideal world we'd love to see him play some more footy this year.
Just from the injury update from last week, Hobbs, Langford, Sardis, Caldwell and Ridley were names alongside Caddy that hadn't been ruled out for the year. There were 10 that have been.
Yep.
Is there any movement on any of those guys that I just mentioned?
Yeah, I expect Kyle Langford to do a fair bit of training today, with ideally with a view to play some VFL minutes this week. That'd be the best case scenario. And Langers has been fantastic in his rehab. He's had a really strong intention of returning to play. And we probably do have to fight this view. When we're out of finals calculations, that a lot of people probably think, what's the point in bringing these guys back? But we've got a lot to gain out of this year. We need some senior players around our younger players, and Langers is a member of our leadership group and a really important part of our team. So, if we can get him back into our team, we'd like to do that. Clearly with a low to as close to zero risk policy as possible. But yeah, we're pushing our guys to return within the safe parameters.
There's been a report this morning that Dylan Shield might want to look elsewhere for 2026 just with the lack of opportunities and sort of his career getting towards the pointy end. Is that something that you'd look to stand in the way of, I guess, and offer him a deal for 2026? And if you've spoken to Dylan about where his future lies?
Yeah, Dylan and I talk all the time. I mean, he had a lack of opportunity at different stages throughout this year, but he's a permanent member of our midfield at the moment. So there's certainly no lack of opportunity. But look, I think there's always this discussion, and without even speaking specifically about Dylan, there are players who come to the latter stage of their career, and they can be really fortunate in that the team is in a contending position, and that often things go the player's way. But if the team's in a different phase, it can be a really difficult one for the player. So it's not necessarily Dylan's playing some really good footy, and he's still a really capable member of our team, but there are more factors than just his form and his age that come into those sort of discussions. But Dylan and I are crystal clear on where he's at. He's clearly a valued member of our team. He's contracted for the rest of this year, and at the end of the year as a list management team, and Dylan with his management will have to sit down and work out what's best for his future.
Just on list management, there's been a lot of young guys that maybe wouldn't have had an opportunity that have come in and proved themselves. I mean, Liam McMahon didn't have his best game last week, but he's been great since he came into the side.
Yeah.
Has that changed, I guess, the general strategy, I guess, on your side of things? Just how many guys have, I guess, stood up and proved themselves through the year?
Yeah, it's a really good problem to have. I mean, it's a unique problem. Teams don't start the year with 47 players on their list, but that's where we find ourselves at the end of the year. Obviously, having 4 mid-season draft picks all come onto our list means that we've got a bit of a squeeze for list spots, and we've got a lot of long-term injured players who are contracted. So, yeah, there is a challenge in that space, and Matt Rosa and his team are currently working through that. But when we took the 4 picks in the mid-season draft, we genuinely hoped that we'd have a real challenge, and it would present some good problems for us, because I think all 4 mid-season draftees have shown some really good signs and some real promise. They all played on the weekend, for example. So yeah, difficult decisions, but hopefully good ones.
In terms of trade, do you look to still be aggressive in that space, or is the view more that if you can actually get good players on the park, that you don't really need to bring in as much developed talent?
I don't think it ever stops. I mean, we're looking to improve our list all the time, and I imagine that the top 4 on the ladder at the moment are working extremely hard to improve their list. They're not getting complacent about where they sit at the moment. They're all looking to improve, and we're looking to improve as well. So that takes all forms of draft, trade and free agency, and we'll look at all of those things within our broader list management strategy, which the team's doing a really good job of.
Just before touching on the game, has there been any movement on the fitness boss front in terms of the search? Is a more clear timeline on when that decision might be?
No timeline. I mean, we'll it's a bit like this time of year with players. I mean, we've got a very expansive brief in terms of we've advertised for the position. We've had a lot of applications for the role, and we've got a targeted shortlist as well of people that we'd like to speak to. But we've got to be respectful of people who are all of those people are in other roles at the moment, not just in AFL footy, but in other sports around the world.
How many would sit on that targeted shortlist approximately?
I want to put a specific number, but it's there's, in terms of the responses to our advertisement, it's been pretty significant. It's I imagine a coveted role, and but yeah, I don't want to sort of expand on who we're and the size of the list we're targeting, but suffice to say we're going really hard at the best available person.
You're not going to pull a Clarko and put 3 defenders on Jeremy Cameron on Friday night to make sure that he can't get the 100?
That didn't necessarily work that well, so I'm not sure whether it was 4. 4 defenders is a better option, but I think there's obvious interest around Jezza and the chase to 100, but Geelong have got bigger fish to fry, and I'm sure they'll be looking to build their form leading into the finals, and we get a chance to test ourselves not only against Jeremy Cameron and the rest of the Geelong forward line, but they're a really complete unit right across the ground. So it can be a really daunting task to go down there, and Cameron in the form he's in, Geelong and the form that they're in, but we actually like to think of it as an unbelievable opportunity for us to go out and test ourselves against one of the best teams and one of the hardest road trips in footy.
Yeah, like you say, one of the hardest trips, particularly for a young group, and then you add in the Friday night factor to it. And how do you address particularly the younger guys in that group for the occasion and get them right mentally?
Yeah, what better opportunity? I mean, this is. I think and I remind the players all the time what a privilege it is to play AFL footy, full stop. But then I think it's an extra special privilege to play for Essendon. Every time you pull on this jumper, it's a privilege, and we've got a responsibility to go out and compete like our life depends on it. And to do that on a Friday night against a really good opponent, it's more of a privilege, and that's the way we'll be attacking it.
You don't have to worry about danger. He's being rested for the week, but how do you deal with the the run and gun of Holmes and Smith, who have quickly become the most dangerous element of that side?
Yeah. I mean, again, we'll clearly have to have plans in place to deal with that. Holmes and Smith, for that matter, they were both exceptional against us last time we played them. So, we'll have to plan for that. But also, I don't think we can just sit back on our heels and try and defend. Defending against Geelong for 125 minutes hasn't worked. I've never seen anyone do that successfully. So, we're going to have to try and challenge them as best we can as well.
Is there any banter between you and Chris through the week, or has it sort of happened enough times that it just doesn't matter?
No, it's we seem to, regardless of he's been at Geelong the whole time, whether north at Essendon, I think there's out of whatever it is, 13, 12 years, we seem to play each other twice the home and away season, I think every year except twice. So put that down to coincidence or something else.